I haven't reviewed a handheld mic in some time, and that's mostly because there really hasn't been anything to really strike me as, oh my god, I need to do this video. And to reinforce that point, I've been sitting on a CAD handheld since spring. So why now then? Well, there's a little birdie that told me, that birdie being Dylan, that the folks at Mackie were actually rather chuffed with themselves over this, the EM-89D. Now, in audio, you kind of hear that all the time from companies, but you usually hear that as marketing speak. This was all those smart engineers and developers saying that to one of their own. Okay then, if you're going to put it that way, I guess I need to take a look-see. By the way, Mackie did send this to me for another project that we're working on, but they had no idea I was going to review it, so of course, they have no say in this. So this thing feels, as all handhelds should feel, sturdy and very solid in the hands. And at first glance, you might be thinking that this microphone looks a touch familiar. And yeah, it really does seem to borrow the aesthetics from the SEV7. I thought the same thing. That is until I realized the EM-89D came out in 2020 and the V7 was released in late 2021. So all those style points I've given to SE over the years actually have to go to Mackie for this, including one of the best little small details I've seen introduced in audio over the past few decades. These little flat spots around the grill so it doesn't roll off a table. I know it's a super small detail, but it's one that I absolutely love. I just need to know if it was Mackie that came up with it or if it was someone else. Let me know down below if you have the answer to that, just so I'm not giving credit to the wrong company, but I think this is the one. Now, one important thing to point out here, though, is that when you open up the microphone, you will notice that the capsule isn't shock mounted, which I'm sure won't come into play later on in the tests, right? Other than all that jazz, though, just like other handhelds, this thing is rather unremarkable in its design, which is kind of expected and appreciated. Now, we're going to keep this brief to not put anyone to sleep. This thing is a cardioid dynamic microphone, 50 Hz to 16 kHz. Its sensitivity is neg 52 dBV per Pascal, meaning it's slightly more sensitive than the SM58. And it rocks into the ring at over half a pound. That's 0.66 of a pound to be exact, making this also pretty decent at home protection. Now let's take a look at the plosive rejection of the EM-89D. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Still got it. Now let's take a look at the proximity effect of the EM-89D. This is me speaking about 5 inches off the front of the capsule. Now I'm directly on top of the capsule. 5 inches away, directly on top of the capsule. Now this is everyone's favorite. We're going to take a look at handling noise. And one of the handling noise aspects of any handheld microphone is taking it out of its saddle when you're live. How'd that sound to you? We're also going to take a look at the handling noise of this microphone with the high pass filter on, just so you can see what it sounds like, because actually all live microphones have a high pass filter on them during a concert, and you should be putting a high pass filter on if you're using a handheld mic at any time, because it does get rid of a lot of those handling noises that can lead to feedback in the end. So this is the microphone with the high pass filter off. And this is the microphone with the high pass filter on. What do you think? And as per usual, any handheld test has to start with an SM58. Now this is that Shure SM58, and it's going up against the Mackie EM-89D. This is an interesting test. Again, every handheld has to be put up against the legend. This is the standard. And this is the Mackie EM-89D. And as I go between them, what do you think of the Mackie EM-89D versus the Shure SM58? I really like these kinds of tests because you can really kind of see the character of the microphone come out when you compare them. Now we have the Mackie EM-89D up against the SEV7. Which one do you like as I go between these? And I only have a couple microphones because I really don't want to get too deep into the comparisons. You can easily go over to Podcastage's page if you want to see this microphone compared to everything under the sun. This is another one of those standards, those professional standards. What do you think as I go between the Mackie EM-89D and the SEV7? Which one do you like? Okay, Now we have a very special microphone, one that I actually haven't taken out of its case in years since I initially reviewed it. This is the Shure SM58. This is the cheaper version of the SM58. What do you think as we go between these microphones? And I'm going to explain in just a second why we're using this microphone in the next chapter. But without that knowledge of why we're comparing it, I want to know what you think between the Mackie EM-89D and the Shure SM58. Which one do you like as I go between them? So this thing has a lot going for it. Let's start there. Now, first up, and I haven't mentioned this so far, this thing's only $50. That is one hell of a sales pitch there for sure. Next up is the sound. It sounds good. There's nothing concerning. And in a vacuum, no one's going to have bleeding ears from listening to it. And of course, I've got to give another final nod to the design. That's just cool, Mackie. As for the cons, well, the handling noise is atrocious. The high-pass filter, which is on every live mic at every live venue, did take care of most of it. But the only positive thing I can say about it, though, is in this price point, it's not really a problem, and I would say that this mic handles it about as well as any other $50 microphone. The plosives are next. I did find them to be a bit more pronounced on this, though as I always say, I am a plosive guy, hence, this thing. And finally, the proximity effect on this microphone is more pronounced than other microphones. Now, whether that's something you want or not, it does need its own personal space. It's something you have to keep in mind. So this is actually a clear yes from me. Now, I'm a hard sell on cheap handhelds. Personally, I just think for $100 you can have the best of the best, so why not save up a bit more? But these things may just be your starter mics for your band. At less than half the cost of the other industry standard handheld mics, this thing's a decent pick. But if you're a handsy singer, and I know you're out there, you may want to consider something different or even relearning a hands-off approach to your job. Now, these were sent to me by Mackie for another piece of content that is in the planning stages. You're going to want to see this. We're going to actually leave this studio. Stay tuned so you don't miss that. It's going to be fun and should also be way outside the comfort zone of this channel. And whenever that happens, hijinks ensue. Let me know though, what did you think of this, the Mackie EM-89D? Let me know down below. Cheers, guys, and thanks for watching.